Tekhelet is a blue dye mentioned 49 times in the Hebrew Bible, Tanakh. It was used in the clothing of the high priest, the tapestries in the tabernacle, and the tassels place, zitziot or scissor-yot, affixed to the corners of one's four-cornered garment, such as the talit. According to the Talmud, the dye of Tekhelet was produced from a marine creature known as the ilazon. According to the Tosefta, the ilazon is the exclusive source of the dye. After the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem by the Romans, the sole use of the Tekhelet dye was in zitzite. A set of zitzite consists of 4 tassels, some of their strands being tekhelet, which Rashi describes as green as poiro, the French word for leek, transliterated into Hebrew. There are 3 opinions in rabbinic literature as to how many are to be blue. 2 strings, 1 string, 1/2 string. These strands are then threaded and hang down, appearing to be 8. The 4 strands are passed through a hole 25 to 50 mm away from the corners of the 4-cornered cloth. Tekhelet is mentioned in the 3rd paragraph of the daily prayers known as the Shema Yisrael, citing Bamidbar, Parashat Shelach. History. One of the Orthodox viewpoints holds that at some point following the Roman destruction of the Second Temple, the actual identity of the source of the dye was lost, and during a period of over 1,300 years, most Jews have only worn plain white tassels. The stripes on prayer shawls, often black but also blue or purple, are believed by many to symbolize what the majority opinion in mainstream Judaism considers as the lost Tekhelet, which is referred to by various sources as being black as midnight, blue as the midday sky, and even purple. These stripes of Tekhelet inspired the design of the flag of Israel, identifying the hilazon. Various mollusks have been suggested as the ilazon, the purported source of the blue dye. None have been universally accepted, though the murex trunculus, known by the modern name Hexaplex trunculus, is currently thought in mainstream Judaism to be the most likely source of the biblical blue dye. See Purificationalis in 1887, Grand Rabbi Gershon Hennick Leiner, the Radziner Rebbe, researched the subject and concluded that C. Purificationalis met many of the criteria. Within a year, Radziner Chassidim began wearing zitzite that included threads dyed with a colorant produced from this cephalopod. Some Breslov Hasidim also adopted this custom due to Rebbe Nachman of Breslov's pronouncement on the great importance of wearing Tekhelet, and in emulation of Rabbi Avraham ben Nachram of Tulchin, a prominent Breslov teacher who accepted the view of his contemporary, the Radziner Rebbe. Rabbi Yitzhak Halevi Herzog obtained a sample of this dye and had it chemically analyzed. The chemists concluded that it was a well-known synthetic dye, Prussian blue, made by reacting iron sulfate with an organic material. In this case, the cuttlefish only supplied the organic material, which could have as easily been supplied from a vast array of organic sources. R. Herzog thus rejected the cuttlefish as the ilazon, and some suggest that had the Grand Rabbi Gershon Hennick Leiner known this fact, he too would have rejected it based on his explicit criterion that the blue color must come from the animal and that all other additives are permitted solely to aid the color in adhering to the wool. Janthina, within his doctoral research on the subject of Tekhelet, Herzog placed great hopes on demonstrating that Murex trunculus was the genuine snail ilazon. However, having failed to consistently achieve blue dye from Murex trunculus, he wrote, "If for the present all hope is to be abandoned of rediscovering the ilazon shell Tekhelet in some species of the genera Murex and Purpura, we could do worse than suggest Janthina as a not improbable identification." Although blue dye has in the meantime been obtained from Murex trunculus snail, in 2002 Drive, S.W. Kaplan of Rehovot, Israel, sought to investigate Herzog's suggestion that Tekhelet came from the extract of Janthina. After 15 years of research, he concluded that Janthina was not the ancient source of the blue dye. Murex trunculus Trunculus in his doctoral thesis on the subject. Rabbi Herzog named Murex trunculus as the most likely candidate for the dye's source, though M. trunculus fulfilled many of the Talmudist criteria. Rabbi Herzog's inability to consistently obtain blue dye from the snail precluded him from declaring it to be the dye source. According to Zvi Koren, a professor of chemistry, Tekhelet was close in color to midnight blue. This conclusion was reached based on the chemical analysis of a 2,000-year-old patch of dyed fabric recovered from Mesada in the 1960s. The sample, shown to have been dyed with Murex snail extraction, is a midnight blue with a purplish hue. Additionally, in 2013, Naama Sukenik of the Israel Antiquities Authority verified a 1st century CE dated fragment of blue-dyed fabric to have used M. trunculus as the source of its pure blue color. In the 1980s, Otto Elsner, a chemist from the Shenkar College of Fibers in Israel, discovered that if a solution of the dye was exposed to ultraviolet rays, such as from sunlight, blue instead of purple was consistently produced. In 1988, Rabbi Eliyahu Tavga dyed Tekhelet from M. trunculus for the mitzvah of zitzite for the first time in recent history. Based on this work, 4 years later, the PTIL Tekhelet organization was founded to educate about the dye production process and to make the dye available for all who desire to use it. The television show The Naked Archaeologist interviews an Israeli scientist who also makes the claim that this mollusk is the correct animal. A demonstration of the production of the blue dye using sunlight to produce the blue color is shown. The dye is extracted from the hypobranchial gland of Hexaplex trunculus snails. Gallery. The common cuttlefish, a sample of Prussian blue, the counterfeit blue, Hexaplex trunculus found on Israeli coastal plain near Tel Sheikh Mona, most likely the Hilazon of the Tosefta. Purple dye bath with extracts from fresh Hexaplex trunculus glands. Zitzite with blue thread produced from Hexaplex trunculus. Structural formula of Hexaplex spp. Base blue, the Tekhelet indigo. Structural formula of plant-based or synthetic indigo, the counterfeit dark blue. In conclusion, its color varies between central sky blue in sunlight and the iris indigo of the rainbow, translated in a German translation of the biblical book of Exodus, as blau und purpur. Alternative interpretations. Tekhelet is ancient Hebrew for blue-violet, used in modern Hebrew with the meaning of light blue. Karaite Jews believe that the importance of Tekhelet is that the color of thread is blue rather than it being necessarily a specific dye. Additionally, it is also believed by the Karaites that the rabbinic tradition that the dye is produced from a mollusk known in rabbinic tradition as the Hilazon is incorrect, because such an impure source would be prohibited by the Torah, proposing instead that the source of the dye was indigo or woad. Bibliography. Gadi Sajiv, Deep Blue. Notes on the Jewish snail fight. Hoffman, Roald, Leibowitz, Shearer, Old Wine, New Flasks. Reflections on Science and Jewish Tradition. New York. W. H. Freeman. ISBN 9780716728993. Access date equals requires, URL equals. Sturman, Baruch, Taubus, Judy. The Rarest Blue. The Remarkable Story of an Ancient Color Lost to History and Rediscovered. Guilford, Con. Globe Pequot Press. ISBN 9780762782222. Access date equals requires, URL equals.